Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Laura Canfield Show. Thank you so much for being here. I'm so excited today. We're going to be talking to Julie Umpleby about the courage to be you. And this is the first time that Julie is on our show, whether it's the Laura Canfield Show or Awaken to Happiness Now. But it's the first time, and I'm excited because I always love talking to brand new people, and especially since she's working with diamonds and diamond energy, and I'm all about diamonds, it seems like recently, the past year or so. So I'm excited about that. So today we're going to be talking about, like I said, the courage to be you, which is, I think, such a wonderful topic and so relevant. And I resonate with it 100%. And also we're going to talk about how to enhance intuition and discernment for self-empowerment, how to build trust in your own truth and knowingness, how sacred geometry and light can enhance your brain and potential, and maintaining connection with your inner life navigator, and so much more. We're going to be doing a process as well. We're going to be taking some live caller questions, I'm sure. And, so just get comfortable, get ready, and we're going to get started. So for those of you who don't know Julie, because you may not, because who knows? I didn't know Julie until like a couple of months ago. So Julie is a futurist, a scientist, a mystic, a spiritual guide, and alchemist who works multidimensionally to bring you into deeper alignment with your soul essence. She's the founder of Diamond Light World. She's also an international speaker and is regularly invited to speak alongside many leaders of the transformation age. And her work with the Diamond Consciousness was brought into being ahead of its time 15 years ago and is now being recognized for the power and support it brings to your individual transformation and living evolutionary journey. And so you can read more about Julie on the live page or in the email, but I'm excited because, like I said, this is something that I'm closely working with as well, diamonds and diamond energy. And so the frequency of diamonds and so on. So I'm so, it's like, yay, let's do this. So Julie, first of all, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Laura. It's really good to be here. And thank you so much for the invitation. I really appreciate it.
And thank you for accommodating me, because as you know, Julie was supposed to be on back in March, but that's when I got really sick. And so we had to reschedule. And so now we're having the show now. So yay, thank you for that.
Hi, welcome. It's just go with the flow. Everything is always perfect and in divine timing. So I trust.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So Julie, because this is the first time that you're on our show, can you just take a few moments and just tell us about who you are, your journey, and especially about the diamond light energy work that you do?
Okay, let me try and condense it into as few words and minutes as possible. Thanks, Laura. I was sort of catapulted out of the corporate environment back in 1998. And I think that was the start of my journey. And it was around about that time that some really interesting and weird stuff started happening. And that was one of my first experiences, actually, of having the courage to be me, because I found that I was suddenly stripped of the identity that I had built around the role that I played in the corporate work environment. And it was a real shock to my system. It was completely unexpected. But that was a significant part of my awakening and moving into the diamond light energy and the diamond light consciousness. So that was back in 1998. Contrary to, a lot of people say, well, they grew up and they always knew and they were always psychic and so on. I didn't have any of that. I had no inkling. There was a fascination with realms beyond the visible and the known. As a scientist, I'm a scientist. I've got a science degree qualification. So I've always been interested in the sciences and some kind of explanation for things that were deemed inexplicable, sort of in the realms beyond. But I didn't grow up necessarily with all of those psychic abilities. I think I was absolutely shut down as a consequence of past experiences, current life into which the family environment into which I was born. And it just is the way that it is. It serves its purpose, as everything does. Many people and many light workers incarnated into some very challenging life experiences. So that was sort of my history. So come 1998, it was like, it's time to wake up. It's time now. And the trigger, the button was pushed, and it was like all hell broke loose, really, if you want to use that kind of description.
Right. Yeah. Absolutely.
As a scientist, there's this part of me going, well, I don't quite know what's happening. I've got this energy running through my hands. I don't know what it is. I've got this heat. in my body in various places. I don't know what it is. I've got this hypersensitive nervous system. What does that mean now? Nobody could come near me. Every hair on my body would stand on end. I'm going, what's happening? You know, it's like total, it literally was total chaos. And I was guided from that particular starting point to a most wonderful teacher. And she was my very first spiritual teacher, who taught me the initial Reiki and some very fundamental spiritual truths and wisdoms. And I am so grateful that she was my primary teacher way back then. And that then, just to really put it into a nutshell, my journey progressed. I did started off with Reiki. I did color therapy, which I absolutely loved, and to this day I love working with color. I learned body work, so I do body work process in person based on massage using color on the body, and it supports the transformation and releasing of trauma from the physical tissues of the body, which is absolutely wonderful and so supportive for the energy work that we do. And then come 2002 and 2003, I was yanked out of South Africa, which was where I grew up. I'm English born, but I grew up in this wonderful country where the sun always shines and it's absolutely amazing. And Spirit told me I had to come back to England, and I went, no, I don't want to do that.
I would have said no too.
And I was, you get it, yeah. Kind of like, no, I'm not doing that. And so I was dragged kicking and screaming back to the UK. But there was no choice, as we were just saying offline, you know.
Yeah.
The more we work and travel with soul as our guide and with that intense intuition, the less choice we actually seem to have, because it's follow where that guidance needs to take you. And that's all there is to it, is going with that flow and with that voice. Anyway, I was dragged back to England. All hell broke loose again. And it was through that process, that breaking down, that releasing of everything that I'd built up around myself for my entire life, all of the identities, that the diamond work actually began to emerge. And that's the beauty of it. That's the gift in being taken out of my comfort zone completely, back to the UK. And it was like, right, now the real work starts. And 2003 was when I was gifted the initial diamond energy, the insight into the diamonds. And I know that there are members of my community who've heard me say this over and over, and I've done it on other shows. So if you've heard it before, then please excuse it. That what I was told back in 2003 was that I had to build the bridge between the stars. And I didn't know what that meant until probably about a year later, after I'd received a whole lot of really enigmatic geometries that became the diamond light codes. They were the diamond light codes. I just didn't know what they were. And it was a year after that that I was presented at 2 o'clock one morning with this 6-foot octahedral diamond in my room, and told that this was the grid I had to build between the stars. And it was the soul star and the earth star. But it is actually bigger than that, because it is a universal cosmic grid that ripples throughout the entire universe, as I have since discovered. So it literally is between the stars, reuniting us with that grid between the stars. But first we have to build it for ourselves and create that alignment. So that was the initial introduction to the diamond light, what I called the diamond light grid. And being told that that was the vehicle for the diamond light codes. And from 2003, it's really just unfolded in the most beautiful, organic, natural way, with a multitude of insights and understandings, and fundamental to the understanding of what the diamond is. We are the diamonds. It's not that it's anything external to us. It was presented as external to me because I had separated myself, in a sense, from the essence of my soul. Now it was time to integrate it. And that's really what the message was. We are the diamonds. We are ultimately the facets of this grand cosmic grid. So we each hold a significant piece through our soul energy of this grand intergalactic picture, the universal image of creation. You know, we are made in the Creator's image.
Mm-hmm.
And also the alignment with our diamond provides us with the means for bridging the physical world and the non-physical world for the embodiment of our highest essence. So it's the vehicle for our soul. And it's
Awesome.
the light. So that's it. I mean, I can talk for days about the diamond as sort of the diamond community that I know, you know, that actually know me will understand and will laugh at, because I do get onto a roll.
No, that's awesome. And thank you for that. Because, you know, there may be people, you know, online with us watching now or watching later who are not familiar with the diamond energy, the diamond light energy, or any of your work. So thank you for sharing that with us.
Thank you. Thank you.
So today we're talking about the courage to be you, right?
Yeah.
And like I said, that is such a relevant topic, and especially nowadays, even more so, because it does take a lot of courage, a lot of strength, a lot of perseverance, a lot of having faith even to be you right now, right?
Absolutely. In a nutshell, that kind of just encompasses it. So, okay, so what else can I actually say about that? So there's the courage to be you. One of the most fundamental teachings that has reverberated with me and stayed with me throughout the years is this understanding that we learn about who we are by understanding who we are not. And we become who we are by letting go of everything that we are not. Mm-hmm. So it actually becomes a lifelong journey. And that's where, you know, a lot of the shadow work and everything else gets done, because that's understanding who we are not. Those shadows and everything else, they've become manifestations of our sensory experiences through the body and through embodiment. Mm-hmm. That it's not the truth of who we are. The truth of who we are lies beyond that. So we have to have the courage to actually face into all of those shadow aspects, every single way in which we have identified ourselves with our physical environment and with our sensory experiences, so that we can move beyond that into the stillness and the core of the essence of what our soul and spirit actually is. So in a nutshell. And one of the first experiences that I actually had of that was, as I say, moving out of the corporate environment, was suddenly discovering that I didn't have that job title. I didn't have that status. I didn't have that position anymore. And it wasn't only that I had to deal with the loss of that, or the diminishment of who I felt I was through moving away and out of that environment. It was other people's expectations of who they thought I was. Because suddenly here I am exploring some really weird and wacky and wonderful stuff, talking about energy and Reiki and these invisible realms and these amazing experiences, and, you know, the sort of channeling which I was actually doing at the time. So dealing with other people's expectations, and I think that is probably one of the toughest arenas and one of the toughest areas that we have to deal with in respect of having the courage to step into the truth of who we are and to leave behind everything that we have accumulated about who we thought we were. So that was my first experience of it, and that was massive adjustment. And I discovered it was many years later. This is an ongoing process of uncovering, of unfolding, of allowing. One of my keywords in everything I do is surrender. Let go. Let go of everything that you thought you were. And in the letting go is an incredible vulnerability. And I also say that it takes great courage to be vulnerable.
Absolutely.
And to be visible in that vulnerability. But many years later, after that initial experience as well, it really quite surprised me, because I've done a lot of work. I've done a lot of diamond work and a lot of exploration. And I had, when I left South Africa to come back to the UK, I had taken this huge house that I had, a beautiful home. I put everything into storage because my idea was that I was going to bring it all to England, all my baggage, all my stuff. I was going to bring it all to England. I was going to find a house in England and I was going to bring all my stuff. Well, I had a shock because the house sizes in England would never have accommodated the stuff that I had anyway. However, because everything fell apart, I couldn't afford to get it to England once I landed here.
Mm-hmm.
So for years, I was like paying storage, and eventually got to the point where I couldn't pay storage anymore. I was just, no, this is absolutely crazy. And I had to let it all go.
Mm-hmm.
All of it. And it was at that point, years later, when I realized how attached I had become to, and how much of my identity was still tied up with all of this stuff that I had around me. Now, it's something that we don't really think about is our attachment to things, you know, and we very proudly often proclaim that we have no attachment, you know, to all of those, until we're faced with a situation that rips the rug out from under our feet. And then we get to examine all of those attachments. And having the rug pulled out from under our feet as well also leaves us in a place of incredible vulnerability. And it requires an incredible amount of courage to find your feet again, to stand up and to carry on. Because in a lot of the teachings that are actually out there, there is somehow this perception or this understanding that's propagated that we should always be happy and positive. And that
have a certain image and persona.
That's exactly it, the image that we present. And that if everything is going well in our life, then we are successful, spiritually successful.
Yes.
And it's a misnomer. And that is how we actually judge, you know, so that those are the perceptions that we have. So to sometimes go against the grain and go, it doesn't matter what it looks like, it's all okay. You know, it takes incredible strength of character.
Well, you know, I'm laughing a little bit because I had, you know, a call with my healing group a little earlier, and you know, I was quite vulnerable, and I shared some stuff, and it's like, yeah, it's not all perfect. It's not all this, it's not all that, you know, and this is what's happening. And, you know, and it turned out to be a really wonderful call for everyone, but it was like, it's not always what it looks like, you know?
Exactly. Yes.
And it's still a continual growth for all of us, because like as you said earlier, it's a process, and we're continually shedding and letting go and becoming more and more of who we truly are, like finding out who we really are and who we're not. But it's not just like a one-time thing.
No. That's exactly it. That's exactly it. It's not a one-time thing. And the only place that we find out who we are is actually in the stillness. And it's in the stillness of our center, and it's in the stillness of our core. And this sort of brings us full circle into understanding how the diamond fits in with this picture. Because what the diamond does when we have that alignment, it brings us into the stillness of a column of light that runs through our core from the soul star to the earth star into our diamond beingness, our diamond essence, which is the copy of the creator. We were created in the image of our ultimate creator. We were made in the image of our creator. And the diamond is actually that image. The diamond is that form and shape that holds together the fabric and is the communication conduit in order for us to communicate with the source of our creation. So it's in that stillness that we actually begin to really and truly connect and develop the strength. Hence this analogy, you know, this like from carbon to diamond, it actually builds incredible strength within you. And going through life's challenges and having the rug pulled out is like being put under pressure over and over and over again, that actually compresses that carbon until what emerges is this brilliant light that is diamond. It is.
So I must be a really brilliant, shining diamond.
Yes. Yes. That's what I kind of say. Well, I've got a few shiny facets. I'm still working on a couple of them.
I've been pressed so much, you know, like, yeah. So I have quite the experiences and struggles. I must be like, you know, really shiny and light and, you know, sparkling.
Yeah. You are, Alara.
And, you know, not to make it light, but it is true that we do find out who we are and the strength of who we are, sometimes through those challenges. But we can also find out who we are without those challenges. Can we not? I don't, because I'm just, it's like, I'm done with the challenges, you know?
I'm done with doing it the hard way.
Exactly. We were talking about that too in our calls. Like, I would like to have, you know, have more experiences of joy and peace. But you're right. It's in that stillness that when we go within, that we find out who we truly are, and that connection within. There's nothing on the outside that can really compare to that.
No, there is nothing. You know, and those are the what I find the universal wisdoms that echo from the sages of old, from the ancient sages. Those are eternal truths, which have been carried down right to this day, and those don't change. You know, we can dress it up in whichever way we want, and whichever fancy language that we want, and through whichever ascended masters that we want. But the fundamental truth is that you find out and you access that all yourself in the stillness of your core. I don't work with ascended masters, and, you know, having the courage to be you is really interesting, because sometimes it requires me to also step up and challenge some of the truths that are also being perpetrated throughout this, what's been accepted as truth throughout this environment. You know, people have said to me as well, where did you get the diamond information from? And it's kind of like, well, it came from within me, actually. You know, so if I go back to the way that it happened, it unfolded, the understanding of it and the connection with it unfolded from within. It was initially something I saw there in the corner, but once I actually started working with it, it began unfolding from within me. So it wasn't downloaded from anybody else. And it was almost like, the attitude and the approach of people in those early days was, it didn't have any credibility.
Because it didn't come from up there. It didn't come from somebody out there.
Yeah.
But all the truth, all the real truths, all the wisdom is within. And it's within each and every person.
Yes.
Right? So yes, we do, you know, work with angels and ascended masters and beings of light as channels and so on and so forth. But if we can go within too, we can also access that same information if we trust it, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Because that is the key, is then taking action on whatever the insight is. I mean, I cannot tell you the number of people that I've actually said to, okay, you're very intuitive, because, you know, you get that sense when you're working with people, you know, immediately they're highly sensitive, empathic, very intuitive people. You're very intuitive. Yes, I am, they say. Yes, I am. I say, okay, now how many times do you act on what you receive intuitively? And then they hesitate and they go, well, not very often.
Right.
Okay. And yet they'll say they trust their intuition. And I mean, if you really, really trust it, then you will act on it. No matter what things look like. And that is having the ultimate faith and trust in what you are getting from your core, in that voice that actually emerges from within. And that takes courage, because it takes courage to take a step in the direction that might not sort of fall in line with somebody else's ideas of where they think you should be going.
Exactly. And that's what I've done in the past, is I followed my intuition, going against everybody and everything, and going against logical reasoning, and followed my truth and my heart and what, you know, was calling me. And it you know, that's why I'm here.
Yes, exactly.
Right? Yes. But when you trust that, it is magical. And we say it's magical because it seems different. Yes. But how, you know, what would it be like if that could be normal? Like that, this is the new normal, following your intuition, following your heart, following your knowing. Yes.
And the thing is that connecting in with your diamond, creating and building and embodying that structure and activating all of those spaces within you that form part of this fractal grid pattern enhances your intuitive ability and helps to build that trust. So it's actually through diamond. And then you see miracles. You know, and they might not be miracles the way that you expect them to happen. We know, you know, I mean, that's sort of like fundamental. Things don't appear the way that we actually think they're going to.
Yeah.
But yeah, the miracles actually happen. And I mean, I've got a wonderful story, if you actually don't mind, about things not being the way that they appear. Is that I actually was renting a little place in the UK some years ago, and the landlady was coming back because her contract away from home had finished. So I got notice while I was away helping my mom, who was ill, so I wasn't even at home. And I got notice that I had to move at the end of the month. So I knew I was only going to be back for 2 weeks. I was going to have to pack up the house and get out, find a new place to go. And I just didn't know how I was going to do it. I was exhausted. I was perimenopausal, so there was an awful lot going on. Helping out my mom. I still had an elderly dog. And I just thought, I don't know what. I went back, started packing, looked around at a couple of places. And I thought I could go into absolute panic mode here and just go for the first place that I find. And something inside of me was saying, no, it's not right. Don't do it. And it was somebody who offered me a place to stay rent-free, actually. Mm-hmm. And it was like, don't do it. Everything within me was saying, don't do it. So technically, comes the end of the 2 weeks, I made myself homeless. I didn't have a home. Right. I phoned a friend in an absolute panic, and I said to her, okay, I've got 2 weeks left and I don't know what to do. She said, put it all in storage. There we go again. Put it all in storage. You've got a roof over your head at my house. You've got a roof over your head at your mum's for a couple of weeks. It'll give you the breathing space. I said, okay, good idea. I'll do that. Doesn't matter. I'm homeless. So I did exactly that. And, you know, there was a series of events on the day I moved out, which took me to a meeting place with a woman who placed an order for some products from me. And at that meeting place was a friend I had not seen for, I don't know, a year. And it was a 5-minute window. She had a break between clients and she wandered down. She said, oh, Julie, I've been meaning to phone you. I heard you were moving. How are you doing? Blah, blah, blah. I said, no, well, actually, I'm homeless, but it doesn't matter what it looks like because it's all okay. Doesn't matter. But if you know of anyone that's got a place to live, please let me know. She says, give me 5. She disappears. She comes back. She says, I've got a house for you. When do you want to move? There was an absolute miracle.
Yeah.
You know, and it was just, once I'd made that decision, I just relaxed and went with the flow and said, it doesn't matter what it looks like. And there again, you know, we need to examine this, having the courage to be ourselves. Mm-hmm. We need to examine where we also get really concerned about the image and the projections that we actually have in our day-to-day life. And those concerns, because it doesn't matter what that looks like. Beyond that is the realm of miracles. Mm-hmm. Beyond Absolutely. The caring about what others may think. So yeah, there's a huge amount that I actually wrote down as some notes in respect of all of this. And as usual, you know what happens, it's kind of like we go off on different tangents so that we can actually discuss some of the other stuff and stories and what have you. So excuse me. Yeah.
No, that's okay. It's all good. But, you know, I know we did talk about enhancing your intuition and discernment, right? And yes. And that's with being connected to yes. the diamond light energies, right? Yes. You being within the diamond, you are the diamond, and going.
You are the diamond. Yeah, absolutely. Creating that grid, that personal grid of light to interpenetrate and work with your physical body enhances the receptivity of your inner voice, because the diamond is very special. And of course, this is something that I've actually spent years doing, so I could pull together all of the understanding in the various programs that I've done. The shape of the octahedron is the perfect antenna and receiver. So it actually amplifies signal output and it amplifies signal input. So when you get all of your biological resonators, all of the elements of your body aligned and resonating within the structure of that geometric form, you literally do enhance your ability to receive that information through the grids and receive it into your being. Whether you hear it, whether you see it, whether you sense it, whichever way it is that you connect with your inner guidance, the diamond actually amplifies it by virtue of its shape. of that geometry. So really, really powerful. And that's one thing that I actually found is it not only enhances your innate ability. So if you innately a kinesthetic sensory individual, you will actually experience a strengthening or an amplification of that particular aspect or quality that is an aspect of your nature. So it doesn't only enhance your inherent qualities, it also activates and opens up those aspects that might not have been so strong. So if your inner voice and your hearing wasn't so strong, the diamond actually activates that so that you become more aware of it. And that was literally my experience, because I've always been visual kinesthetic, and it was the audio input that became really strong once I started strengthening and working with the diamond alignment.
Awesome. Thank you. Yeah, my dog needs to go out. My husband's taking him out.
Wonderful.
And that's awesome. And so, and that's the thing. A lot of people have talked about on different shows and sessions, how they can connect more with their intuitive gifts and talents and capacities and make them stronger, like enhance them even more, right?
Yes. Yes.
So this is one way.
This is one way. I mean, ultimately, what I've discovered, there are many methods. All things ultimately come back to the diamond. And that's over the years of working with it and with numerous people, one of the most common responses and feedback is people say, now everything that I've done in my life suddenly makes sense. It all comes together and it hangs in the diamond, and that's because it is the universal grid or matrix. It's what you might want to term. People talk about paradise grids or whatever. That's what the diamond grid is. It's the ultimate paradise grid in which everything becomes more fully interconnected. So everything makes sense. It's like everything's okay, and it all comes back to the diamond. So when you work with that fabric, you actually open up a realm, and you can go and explore here and go and explore there and use other methodologies. And everything that you do from within the diamond framework is then amplified. You will find it you'll find that you're guided to the right methods and approaches that are actually ideal for you. And it'll amplify the effects. It's quite amazing, actually.
Yeah. I'm going to have to look into that and try it for myself.
Yes.
Play with it. Right?
Yeah,
play with
yeah,
it.
Yeah.
And so, so that brings us, because it's amazing how, you're talking and I've got a question and I'm looking at my list now. It's like, that is actually the next point. How to build trust in your own truth and knowingness. Because you said, that somehow you'll just know everything, it seems like everything comes together and it's like, it didn't make sense before and now you realize it really does. And so that truth and knowingness, sometimes we doubt. I don't understand why this happened. I don't know why I did this. It felt good at the time. Where am I going? A lot of people are questioning that. Where am I going? What's going on? I feel so lost.
Well, in fact, Alara, that's really important, because at the moment it's almost as if we've taken a bit of a battering through certainly the last 12 months, through 2018 and even into the first few months of this year.
Oh, yes, I agree.
Yes. Yeah, many of what we might term the light workers have really been pummeled, because the whole process has literally been stripping away all of those false identities and attachments, so that we can connect more deeply with our knowing. But sometimes it's actually okay to not know. In the not knowing are the opportunities to actually make different choices. So it means that we're not locked into a fixed paradigm. And it's almost like the transitional period between all of the old stuff that we thought we knew, and that, sort of we were tied into through our belief systems. And then you go through this transitional period of not knowing. So I just don't know where I'm going anymore, because those new doors haven't opened yet. That knowing hasn't actually landed, because there's a whole lot of adjustment happening during this transition phase. So sometimes it's actually okay not to know, and we have to trust that that's an okay place to be. We just keep asking the questions. It's like, okay, well, my big one is like Big Jules, higher self, show me. I call my higher self Big Jules because I would say she's the aspect of me that can see way more than what I can.
Yeah.
She sees beyond, she sees higher, she sees deeper. Big Jules, what is it that I need to do in this moment? And that's also what I would challenge people to do and recommend that they do. Is so often we want to look 10 steps ahead at where we're going and have the assurance that that is what's going to happen. And that's where we start losing trust because we want those assurances. When we go one little step at a time and we're, okay, higher self, Big Jules, show me now. What's the next step that I need to take? Oh, well, okay. Well, right now you're going to go house sitting in Surrey. Okay, well, that's wonderful. Okay, so that's my next step. I don't know. People say to me, where are you going to be, you know, in another year's time? I don't know. I don't know because I'm actually in the now and I'm taking one step at a time towards where my core essence wishes me to develop, to be, to bring the light into whatever it might be. So it's like, stop looking at the bigger outcome and focus instead on each moment. And again, there's the universal truth. The only point of power or reference that we ever have is in the now. So that's one way of starting to build trust, is just in those small steps, one at a time, one at a time.
Yeah.
And that's how you build it until when the big things happen and you get the instruction to leave the country or whatever it might be. It's like, okay, I'll do it. Okay, I'll go. No problem.
Yeah, absolutely. I love that because it is really about one step at a time, one foot in front of the other. And there are no guarantees. There are no reassurances, you know, and you don't know what the next step is going to be until you take that first step.
No.
Right. And so, and this is about being in the flow and being in our truth and just being in the flow and continuing to ask questions of ourselves. Okay, what else? For me, the questions are always, okay, so what would be fun now? You know, like, what do you want to do now?
Yeah, that's a good
right?
one. Yeah.
What would be fun now? What do you want to do now? You know? Or how can I serve, you know?
Yes. How can I serve?
Exactly.
How can I be of service?
And ask, you know, and continually asking, and then also waiting for the answer to come to your heart, not to your mind.
No, that's exactly it. Yeah, that's exactly it. Yeah,
right?
and
there's a difference, a big difference between the mind and the heart, right? Can you talk a little bit about that for a quick second?
The mind, well, we kind of think mind where we're really talking about the brain. And the brain is actually configured, all of the neurons in our brain are actually configured on the basis of the programs that were inculcated within us from the time that we came out of the womb. That's like a grid work or a template that was laid down. So when our mind is trying to comprehend, it's trying to comprehend things or a knowingness on the basis of patterns that have been laid down, fundamental templates that we're actually trying to change those neuronal patterns in order to accept new truths and new ways of being. So whenever we try and think our way through things, that's often the problem that we run into, that we've got old pathways and old networks that are embedded, that are trying to make sense of something new that doesn't fit into that particular paradigm. So the only way is to drop it into our heart and to feel with our body and to rest, to literally surrender into that knowingness. And, you know, surrender is not a passive process. Surrendering is an active process because it requires us to listen, to trust, and to take action on whatever the insights are that have been given and to flow in the direction that we're guided. Yeah, it's a very active process.
I know I always felt that surrender was like giving up. And so it was like a death. You know, kind of, you know?
Yes.
And that's why, and a dying. And so I guess that's why I never liked it. Because I was like,
what's really interesting is that it is giving up in a sense. It's giving up on trying to figure things out from that limited perspective of our brain and our brain's capacity. Because that's one of my favorite things. And I think that's when I've had so many breakthroughs, is actually when I go, my back's against the wall. Okay, I give up. higher self, what is it you want me to do? And then rest and allow the knowingness to drop into the heart. Just exactly what we were saying a moment ago. And yeah, that's truly been, a lot of my friends actually know that. But that's the way I had to learn, was back against the wall, you know, have you given up yet? All right, I surrender. But we surrender to our higher self.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where it becomes an active knowing step to take. It's an action as opposed to passive.
I love what you just said. I just love that we surrender to our higher self, who is us. It's just a greater aspect of us who knows more, sees more, you know. Wow, I just that just like light bulbs went off, you know.
Yeah, that's a simple way of, because that's exactly it, Lauren. I've met a lot of people who say also that they perceive surrender to be a passive giving up process. So, well, it is in a way. It just depends on how you're actually perceiving it. You're giving up trying to make things happen from this limited perspective.
Yeah, I love that. Yay! I'm gonna use that a couple of times. So for those of you who are part of my higher dimension healing intensive, remember that for me for tomorrow.
Remind me in case I forget.
Yeah, remind me, because you know we're working on this theme, it seems, this week.
Brilliant.
Yeah. So we were talking about the brain, right? And so you know, I want to talk about how we can enhance our brain and our potential with sacred geometry, with the diamond light energies.
Okay. Now, one of the ways that we can do that, it was rather fascinating for me to learn sort of how the brain and the neurons actually function, and the fact that our brain sees things in pictures, pictograms, and images and concepts. You remember that wonderful movie Arrival, where they were trying to work out the communication because it was all in shape and geometry, and each shape represented a concept as opposed to a letter or a word. You know, it was a meaningful communication package. An information package. Well, that's the way that our brain actually ultimately takes on board and begins to interpret information, is through geometries. Now, if we look out there, we think that we are seeing something definite, but it's just because our brain has learned to interpret things in a very specific way. So what we want to do is support our brain in developing new neuronal networks so that it recognizes different patterns and shapes and forms. When we focus on mandalas or sacred geometries, it's like light actually enters through the optic nerve and filters through into the brain, and the information that geometry contains begins to lay down a new neural pattern in accordance with that light, if that makes sense at all. Because when we see anything, it's light that enters our eyes, not an image, it's light. So the diamond light, for want of a better description, is a high frequency. It's source energy, it's source light. It is. It's the essence and the energy from source. The diamond grid is the conduit for the diamond light energy, of which we are embedded. We are embedded within that universal matrix and grid. Running through that matrix are codes. Now, a lot of people are talking about diamond light codes. Diamond light codes. They are geometries. They are forms of light that we are taking on board through our body and through our eyes even, because many are seeing them in orbs and in different ways, and through our eyes, that are helping to lay down different neuronal templates in the brain so that we can perceive, sense, and have sensory experiences that are more aligned with finer and higher frequencies that bring us closer to that diamond light. Now, I don't know if that makes any sense at all.
Yeah.
But focusing on geometry is actually focusing on light, because the light that is encoded in that pattern is actually filtered through the optic nerve into the brain, and it directs the growth of the neural tissue in our brain, so that we can perceive differently. So we expand our beingness through actually focusing on geometries. And that's what I advise people to do with the diamond light codes. One of the ways is use them as a waking meditation, because that helps to embed the information that that code carries about our evolving consciousness. I mean, our brain is actually wired into our body as well through the nerve network. So whatever it is that's being perceived here is then chemically translated into our body and has an effect on the cells of our body. So, and vice versa. So we take in energy through our body, the information is then interpreted by the brain. So we're working both ways with this. So when we focus on the diamond light codes, that light is actually entering through our visual senses. What people have experienced with them as well is if they stand on the code, the energy of the code enters their body through their feet. Well, they can sit on it and it enters through their skin. And that then begins to change the cellular configuration and the chemical responses from the cells of our body, which in turn gives you an experience of something unfamiliar, which begins the process of changing the neural network. So you've got this dual effect. Does that make sense?
I love it. Yeah. And, it just makes me more conscious of, what am I looking at? Right?
Yeah.
Because, the light energies are coming through whatever, and they're being interpreted by my brain, right?
Yeah.
So depending on what I've experienced in the past and so on and so forth. Yeah. But the higher frequency images and so on and so forth, like the diamond light codes would have higher frequencies. They would start to shift and change those neural pathways from what they used to be to something higher vibrating, higher frequency, more refined even, right?
Yeah. Absolutely. Thank you. Yeah, it does. It actually supports the refinement of that. And in fact, using the light codes in that way as a visual meditation tool speeds up the process. One of the things that I learned was through something called the brain balancing program, and this really fascinated me a number of years ago. I was working with a medical doctor. She's actually a medical doctor who works with all of these metaphysical concepts, a really, really fascinating lady, and she introduced me to it. And in that program, they use 3 fundamental geometries. The first one is the circle with a dot in the middle, which is the symbol that we know for the sun. And it represents the birthing or the piercing of consciousness. That was the first one. The second one is just a cross, which is then the masculine energy. So you've got a feminine form and then a masculine form. And that in itself is interesting because we always associate the sun as being masculine and the moon as feminine. When we look at it this way, the symbol for the sun actually represents a female breast. And it's actually a feminine energy. So this is how distorted some of our understanding has actually become through our programming. But those are the first 2 symbols. There's the circle with the dot in the middle, the cross, and then the triangle. And through focusing on these 3 particular symbols on a daily basis, in a specific sequence for a set period of time, that restores the brain's patterning to default. So it starts undoing all of the old conditioning that has become set in the way that the neurons of the brain have been encoded. So that was where I actually started learning about the development of consciousness and the importance of those 3 symbols. And that's a whole story all on its own. But then that sort of took me through understanding more what the diamond light codes as specific geometries were actually doing and how they were supporting us. And I had my own experience with the brain balancing with those 3 fundamental symbols, which was quite mind-blowing. But anyway.
No, thank you. Yeah. And it just goes to prove as well that change is possible. We can change our brain waves, our brain patterns, the neural pathways. So, just that knowing that change is possible is so empowering.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah.
Brilliant.
And you change your brain patterns, you change the chemicals of your body. And that's the same, change a thought and the way that you're actually looking at something, and you change the way that your body responds.
Absolutely.
So,
yeah, love it. Thank you. And so we also want to talk about maintaining connection with your inner life navigator. I'm assuming. I love the terminology. It's like, okay, that's brilliant. Maintaining connection with your inner life navigator.
Well, it's really quite simple. Okay, it's just fancy language again. Because who is our inner life navigator? It's our highest potential self, our spirit, our essence, whatever you would like to call it. That's our life navigator. That's the one that we trust.
Yeah,
it's the one that we build that faith in, because that is the one that's actually connected through the universal grid to creative source that's getting the instructions. So what is the way that we maintain the connection to that is through the stillness and through the strengthening of the internal streams of diamond light, through building the diamond infrastructure and strengthening that fractal pattern. So it's really quite simple. And actually, it looks really good, but the simplicity of it is that's what it is.
Yeah.
Because everything comes back to the diamond. And when that happens, it's like you navigate your life with greater ease, with greater flow, and with less stress and less anxiety. It's anxiety and stress takes us out of flow immediately.
Yeah.
Whereas when we connected with that navigator, and it might just be 2 sentences in that still small voice that says, go here, or do that, or put the pen down tonight. And you go, oh my God, I need to run, I need to do this, I need to do that. Put it down. That's all. And then something else actually unfolds from that. So we strengthen the connection to that navigator by building the home and the scaffolding that supports that ever-present, or supports the ability, if you like, of ourselves to be present to that voice.
Yes, beautiful.
By becoming the antenna. Yeah.
I love it. Thank you.
Yeah.
Wow. We're having such a fascinating conversation, and I knew we would, but at the same time, I forgot to mention at the very beginning of the call, if you have questions, you can raise your hand or you can type it in the chat. And hopefully we will get a chance to take some questions a little bit later, but it's like, this has been just so much fun, so enlightening, and just so on point. I just love it. So thank you so much, Julie. It's been fantastic.
You're welcome. Thank you. Thank you to everybody who's here. Thank you to everybody who's shown up. Thank you for listening to your own intuition that says, I need to be on this call. And exactly. Thank you.
So I know we're going to do a process, and do you want to do it now or do you want to do it after?
I'm quite happy to do it now. Awesome. Because what I'd like to do is to just work on a fundamental process with the diamonds that supports you in letting go of any and all of the scaffolding that is around that's been holding up the old identities and the old attachments, so that you can really connect with that diamond light. So we want to let that go.
Absolutely. Yeah. Okay. Sounds good.
Okay. So if everybody's ready, I'd just like you to sort of sit comfortably. I just want to explain something for those who are not familiar with it, is that the octahedron is 2 pyramids joined base to base. I don't have my little model with me. It's all the traveling. It's in one of the suitcases, so I apologize. But if you can imagine that you've got a 4-sided pyramid one way and then a 4-sided pyramid the other way, that's an octahedron. Your personal diamond extends from your soul star, which is an external energy center above your head, down to the earth star below your feet, equidistant on either side, and the very center of those 2 pyramids connects and aligns with your physical body in line with the base of your spine. And that's one thing that very, very few people who work with the diamond light or diamond consciousness actually even know about or understand. And if I can just tell you guys, there's a reason for this. The base of your spine is known as the sacrum or the sacred bone, the holy bone. It is the seat of the energy rising that we know of as Kundalini, the sacred fire. The shape of the pyramid is actually such that when energy is drawn into that particular configuration, it accumulates 1/3 of the way up the height of the pyramid. And if you take the distance from the back, and I didn't know this at the time, I did something on total trust. Higher self said to me, this is where it needs to be. And I kind of went, I don't understand it, but I'm going to trust it. Took 2 years before I actually got the information and insight. But the distance from the base of your spine to your soul star, 1/3 of the way up is your heart. So what happens is the energy actually accumulates and builds in your heart, which, as we were saying earlier, is the seat of knowingness. So your diamond centers on the base of your spine, and as such, then amplifies your heart essence. So I just needed to share that with you guys before doing the process. So I hope that makes sense.
Yes, thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, so I'd like you to just, I'm going to close my eyes too. I'd like you to just close your eyes and be comfortable, and just begin by taking a deep breath in. Focusing all of your attention on your breathing as you breathe in and out. That's all you need to do for the moment. And by focusing on your breath, you are indeed surrendering to the flow of the essence of the eternal creative source breathed into your body, all the way down to your toes and out. You're surrendering to the very essence and source of life itself. And as you begin to relax and ease into the flow of your breath, you become aware that you are not in and of itself doing the breathing in so much as you are being breathed. For you are being breathed into being in every moment by the creative source. So deep breath in. And allow yourself to be breathed. And let your body soften as the tension begins to ease. And now invoke or intend for your diamond to take form around you such that the top point is aligned with your soul star, above your head to the bottom point below your feet. And the very center sits at the base of your spine, and you can see fibers of light emanating from the base of your spine in all directions, holding you stable within the strength of this sacred form. And the light pours down from your soul star, your conduit into the universal grids, source grids, paradise grids, unity grids, the grids of life. And the light pours down through a central column that runs the length of your diamond from top to bottom. Allow yourself to be present to this. Be aware of your consciousness expanding, of your inner vision becoming clearer and more refined as this light runs through you. And then as you cast your vision out from within this inner sacred space, you see or become aware that the old scaffolding around you, the old matrix beliefs about who you are expected to be, what you thought life wanted of you or from you, your identities and roles in life that may have been and still are aspects and attachments that prevent you from fully realizing the truth of your core. Just be aware and take your eyes around as you notice where this old scaffolding is still in place, connected to the fabric of your being, where it is holding you up. And behind that scaffolding, your diamond essence strengthens and grows, ready to be released, connecting you with the authenticity of the real you, beyond the words, beyond the descriptions, beyond the roles and identities, beyond the connections, the jobs, expectations, people, is the real you. And as you look out upon this old scaffolding, you realize that so much of this is no longer needed. Your new home, your new residential space for your highest potential self is being created behind the scaffolding, ready to burst free. Allow the light that pours down now from your soul stone to expand throughout your body and your being. You may be aware of tingling, you may be aware of warmth. Just allow whatever is being experienced to be experienced. And allow the light to expand with each breath that you take, with each breath that is being breathed through you, so that your blood cells and your blood are pumped full of the light of your core, so that your nerves are ignited with the light from your core. The neurons in your brain come alive as they begin to reconfigure with the light from your diamond essence. Your bones are permeated with the light from your core. And the light emanates out, and the strength of it begins to dismantle the scaffolding that you have held up around you for so long. Notice which aspects of your life, your old way of being, are dismantled as the light pushes out from within, or flows out from within. Be aware of the strength and the peace, of the stillness and the power in the light that is emanating from your core, your diamond light, your reason for being. And it pours down your core and out through your body, down through your earth star and into the planet, so that you become a vehicle for the ever-expanding acceleration of consciousness. You have the strength and the courage to step forward in this new light as the real, authentic, sovereign you. And the light simply permeates through the grids, touching all of those areas of your old beingness with love and gratitude for the role that they played in holding you up so that you were able to make the journey to this point, this stage, this place of being. And with the love, all that scaffolding simply begins to dissolve, for it is no longer needed. Take a deep breath in. And out. Allow yourself to simply rest into this place. There is no need to disconnect from it, for it is you. It is the eternal you. Take a deep breath. And just simply allow yourself to gradually resurface back into waking consciousness. And open your eyes.
Do I have to come back?
Yeah, I know. It's one of those places. I actually had did a group diamond session because I do them monthly. I do diamond transmissions where we work on some or other element of refinement of our diamond beingness. And so often people go, "Oh no, I don't want to come back."
Yeah, that was.
I'm gonna stay there.
Exactly. I just want to stay here. So I can still stay here and still talk, right?
Yeah.
We'll try that.
So I hope you guys enjoyed that experience of the strengthening of the light core. I was aware of a lot of heat. I was aware of a lot of tingling, which happens.
I'm still sweating, so
Really?
Yeah. Still experiencing a lot of heat up and down my back and just everywhere. But that's
Yeah, it does, and that's what's also I find very interesting, because if we look at the fact that the octahedron or diamond is two pyramids, the word pyramid from Greek actually is split up as pyre, a mid, which means fire in the middle. So it actually ignites the transmutational fire of our inner feminine and our inner source.
Yes, definitely happening. Definitely happening. Like, oh my goodness, why did I wear the sweater?
Some people I must just mention at this point as well, because it does happen now and again with certain people that their first experience with the diamond is an audible one where they actually are aware of a click as it slides into place in the right configuration. And now I had the click that happened with me in the very beginning, which was how I knew, and I could feel it. I was actually very, very aware of it, anchoring at the base of the spine. And since then, every now and again, I get people coming up to me if I don't mention it, and they're like, something really, really weird happened. Before you even started the process, you just mentioned diamond, and I heard and felt the click. I'm kind of going, oh, okay, I'm so glad you mentioned it. So just for anybody that may experience something weird, it's okay. It's actually quite normal. It's just anchoring.
Well, Linnell says, yes, the click is quite clear. So yes to the click. Anne said, thank you, Julie. The scaffolding disappeared in pixels.
Oh, wonderful.
And Caroline says, wow, resonating within myself. Yes, heat, tingles, feelings of falling. Very yummy. And Lisa was saying it was beautiful. And I think, Laura, did you want to say something? I see you're unmuted. Maybe you're unmuted by accident. Laura?
Hi, Laura.
Hi.
Did you have a question or a comment?
I didn't have audio on my, I'm looking at you, and I didn't have audio, so I called in so I could hear you guys. And I tuned in late, but say hello and blessings. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Hello and blessings back, Laura.
So much.
And so somebody else, so Anne is saying, I'm not sure what this means, Anne, but it says, sorry, disappeared. My click happened in my past life.
I know, Anne. Yeah, it's a bit of a standing joke because she said, I haven't clicked. And then she says, no, I definitely clicked with the diamond, which means that was embedded. Anne has been a member of the diamond community for about 10 years.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's the same, Anne, if that's right. Yeah, you can just put a thumbs up, Anne. So she says, I clicked in a past life.
That's cute. And Julie says that she was driving, so she couldn't close her eyes. But she says, I got kind of angry and then release, then super hot, you know.
Wow. I know that's interesting. Alara, if I can also mention, so for those of you who might experience that, that's fascinating, is the diamond amplifies everything that you are not, so that you can let it shift and surrender into that which you are. So that which you are not is all the anger, frustration, trauma, resentment, and that's why it would have felt so profound initially. Mm-hmm. And well done you for letting it go so that you could rest into and allow the energy to do what it needed to. Thank you.
Good job, Julie. Nikki says, I was guided to do something almost completely different from what I was being guided.
That's okay. That's empowering, because that's ultimately what the diamond is about, is about that empowerment. And that happens in our group journeys as well. People say, I don't know where I was, but I wasn't with you. I was doing something else. That's okay. It's absolutely perfect. If what I'm doing is supporting the holding of space so that you can take the journey you need to take, then that's absolutely.
Mm-hmm. Awesome. And Lisa says, feels like waves of energy are pouring into me still. Literally stood up and had to sit back down. Well, Lisa, I wish I could stand up.
Well, that's also because it connects you into, it serves as a magnifier and amplifier of receiving and transmitting. Mm-hmm. And you would have connected into the greater grids by the formation of that particular antenna connected to your own beingness. So yes, it opens you up to receive. Now, I would also say to people, another thing is, be cautious about working with this too late at night until you become accustomed and attuned to the energy. Okay. Because if you work with it late at night, it can actually become overwhelming and prevent you from resting and getting enough sleep until your body has adjusted and attuned.
So luckily for most of these people, it's afternoon.
It's afternoon, yeah, they're fine.
For us, it's a little bit later, but that's okay because we're night owls anyways.
Yes.
So Angela says that she said, I got quite sleepy and felt severe pain in my ankles.
Okay. That's really interesting because the ankles represent trust and moving forward in life. So what I would also suggest is that it's amplified that, it's asking you, and your higher self is asking you to take a look at areas in your life where you may be afraid of moving forward, where there is a lack of trust or faith in the process, where you may be anchored or weighted down with something. So I would suggest that you actually have a look at those. It's just an alert. That's all it is. Mm-hmm. It's kind of like saying, hey, something to take notice of here. And that can also happen while transmutation is happening, because the diamond light frequencies begin the process of transmutation also.
Cool. So speaking of the ankles, so I find I'm constantly not turning my ankle or rolling my ankle, but like cracking my ankle all the time. It's like I need to like constantly move them. Is it because they get just like stuck or tight or whatever? I don't even know the word for that.
Oh, it could be because the ankles really keep us in the flow.
Yeah.
So when they get stuck, it actually prevents the flow. And it's also linked with the knees. The knees are linked to the heart. So that's why we often struggle with knee issues when we need to have a change of heart about something. So the ankles and the knees are about the flexibility to move.
Okay.
In total trust and faith. Yes.
Those two words.
Okay, keep them mobile.
Yeah. Oh my goodness, lots of stuff still coming through. So Caroline says, when I'm told to let it breathe me, I felt briefly a little fear. Have had this for years when I would stop breathing and not being able to catch my breath. This time I let it happen. Is that fear or is that the process?
What, that you let it happen? Yeah. Oh, yes. Yeah, no, that's the process. Let it happen. Because quite literally, we are breathed into being by the Creator in every moment. And that's where the truth comes from, that we can actually change our essence, the programs in any moment, because we are literally being breathed in and out. So it's kind of like with the in-breath and the out-breath. In between those two breaths is a moment of almost non-existence. Yeah. So yeah, it's the fear of not existing. It's like, well, who am I? And that's what we were working on with all of the identities. So I'm not surprised that fear came up. So rest with that and know and trust that you were breathed into being because you were fulfilling an aspect of the Creator's plan. Thank you for sharing that. That's lovely.
Awesome. Thank you, Caroline. And Bianca was saying she's been told in previous readings that she would work well with sacred geometry, but she's wondering where to even start or in what capacity. And any insight you may have would be a huge help.
Sure, it's a huge subject. Gosh. Do you know, I need to think about that one. Can I ask you to perhaps send me an email, and I'll have a look at some of the sacred geometric work that I've done, sort of fundamental stuff. There are a couple of good resources on the internet that I actually started off with to understand the basics of sacred geometry. I was also told that. I was told I would work with grids before any of the diamond stuff started happening. And I didn't have a clue what that meant. Now I do.
Yeah, awesome. And so Angela's saying, I resonate with what you say. I'm not sure. Anyway, been failing to trust the process because of fear of where it will take me, and still dealing with what triggered me on this path in the first place. I will continue working on self-love. Yes. Yeah,
absolutely. Yeah. Rest into the diamond, because the diamond is the love of your higher self for you. So it is love that you actually embody through that infrastructure. And as I said, it amplifies the heart. So it's also going to highlight anything that gets in the way of the total embodiment of that. So just allow that energy to filter through your being, to just love every cell and love every bone and yeah, work with it.
Awesome. Thank you. So, and people can, when people can go back and, obviously listen or watch this replay again and do that process again. There's no limit to how many times I can do it.
No limit at all. Absolutely. Yeah. Do it over and over. It's just do it with the intention of working with it to support the releasing of all of those old identities, because step by step and process by process and bit by bit, you build the strength and the courage to be fully authentically you.
Yeah. So
allow that essence to be of service in the world.
So just not at night.
Just until you get attuned to it, you will know. Yeah.
Beautiful. So I wanted to take a few moments and talk about the special offer for our audience today. So for those of you who are on the live page, you can just click on special offer. Those of you who are not, you can go to alara.at/show/Julie. And so we have 3 packages today, package A, B, and C. So Julie, can you talk about the Diamond Template Activations and the Diamond Alchemy Program?
So yes, both of the programs actually combine and bind together more than 15 years of knowledge, insight, and understanding and energy processes to support your work forward with the diamond consciousness, because ultimately everything is diamond. But there are links in there to understand how it supports the resonance of your DNA, so how it assists in DNA activation. There are processes and insights in the packages that support the alchemization and the dissolving of old redundant patterning, so we let go of all of the like we've just done now as a mini process, but a more extensive process. We work down at the DNA level. It's a lot of internal support for activating the fractal facets of your diamond beingness. So it's like working from the inside out. Everything I do works from the inside out. So we go into the cellular level and then understand how that impacts at the macro level. So it's micro to macro. Mm-hmm. All of the time, supporting the restoration of your original blueprints and the divine templates. The diamond is your divine original template of beingness. So the program itself gives you all of the understanding of that, how it links with your biology, how it links with the magnetite in your brain, how it links with your DNA, how it links with your blood cells. I talk about the some of the misnomers in the field at the moment, like we're moving from carbon to crystalline. No, that's a metaphor only, and it's a diamond metaphor. So all of those explanations and processes around those are actually contained within, first of all, the diamond template activations. There are 5 separate modules, 5 separate webcasts that cover all of that. And then the Diamond Alchemy program is focused on the elements, the 5 elements, and how they work with the diamond energy and how the diamond energy works with those in order to restructure our body, because our entire being is structured on the basis of the 5 key elements that we know of: earth, air, fire, water, and ether. How do they combine within the diamond infrastructure to create our bodies? So we work with that. We work with the restructuring and alchemization of our bodies, and work with the sacred marriage, what we call the sacred marriage, which is the unification of feminine and masculine, because the diamond itself supports that unification, transcending those polarities. All polarities, so we're looking at addressing and balancing those polarities so that we can actually transcend and yet hold them. So there's so much in those packages, guys. It's 15 years worth of experience, of knowledge, of energy work. There are also some wonderful, wonderful bonuses in the Diamond Alchemy program. There is a bonus called the Sacred Mirrors program, which really gets us to look very, very deeply at the mirrors and reflections in our lives, how they play out and how we can actually work with them, and then we can use the diamond and the diamond processes to support the clearing of that. So there's that. There are also some emotional purification processes in the diamond template activations, as well as some inner child work. All of it, because all of it is encompassed and brought into this condensed, perfect, beautiful form, so that you ultimately become a stronger antenna that is of service in the world. And here's an image for you that I'd like you to think about, is that every single individual, one of the things that Spirit showed me a number of years ago is that every single individual that fine-tunes and clears their diamond and clarifies, if you like, the facets of their diamond grid, serves as like an acupuncture point into the planet. So serves as a seeding point for establishing that wonderful high consciousness grid within their local arena, and that ultimately all of these acupuncture points meet up through the new frequency lines, and together we all create the unified grid. So that's what your diamond does, and that's one way of being of service. We don't necessarily have to be of service by going out there and being a healer or anything else that we want to label. We're of service when we actually support and strengthen and have the courage to simply be ourselves and be the truth of who we are through that diamond work. So that's what the programs do. They support you in being that.
Right.
In a nutshell.
Awesome. Thank you. So there's like the two programs, A and B, are each 111. So package A is 111, package B is 111, and then package C is both A and B for 197.
Yeah.
So please do take a look at the packages, all the descriptions, all the wonderful
testimonials.
Testimonials.
There's some lovely feedback, from people. Thank you.
Yes, exactly. So there's lots of information there for you to take a look at, the different modules, the different bonuses, lots of MP3s and videos. So they're all there. And so again, that is available at alara.at/show/Julie. Neo wants to play now.
I gathered he was actually taking your attention there.
I was like, I want to play. So I have some questions here. So CA, I'm not sure who CA is, had asked, if ankles and knees are trust, heart, and moving forward, spine is support, what are shoulders, elbows, wrists, and fingers?
Okay, that's all part of opening to receive life. You know, that wonderful image of, joy, and so it's all about receiving.
Mm-hmm. Awesome.
Receiving life, bringing it in. Yeah.
Good, thank you. And Caroline is asking, and do we clear only through this program? What does that mean, Caroline? Do we clear only through this program? Maybe you understand what she's talking about, Julie?
I don't know. I would say, if you're talking about clearing in general, it's not even so much about clearing as it is about strengthening your own connection to your source and to creator and to creative source. So as you strengthen that, you automatically begin to clear and transmute whatever has actually been holding you back in life, if you like. So nothing is ever the only way to do things. Mm-hmm. And that's what I always say to people: trust your own guidance, trust your own intuition. If you're drawn to it, and that's, I had somebody who came on a workshop, and when she came to the workshop and I went around everybody in the beginning and said, okay, so welcome everybody, and what brought you here? And she says, I'm here because you didn't sell it to me and you didn't tell me that I had to do it. Because I always said, you know what? You have to trust your intuition.
Yeah.
You have to trust what's right for you. So I hope that helps.
Awesome. Thank you. And she's saying, so is it possible to already have our diamond clear already?
It takes a long, long time to actually clear and clarify it. And that's sort of from years of experience. And as we were saying earlier on in the program, it's an ongoing process. Mm-hmm. So when we have full clarity of every facet of our diamond, bearing in mind that it's a fractal pattern all the way down to the cellular level, which I explain in the program. So that when we've actually got all of that clear, it's almost as if we then have the choice as to whether we want to stay in physical embodiment or not. Okay, we can walk around with that clarity. So yes, it's possible. These energies and these frequencies are relatively new upon the planet. They're part and parcel of what you might term the ninth wave frequencies, and I don't know if you're familiar with those from the Tolkien and the Mayan calendar stories. They're part of that. They haven't been on the planet for long enough for us to be in complete embodiment with those frequencies at the moment, and our circuitry is it's changing all the time to accommodate.
Awesome, thank you. And so yeah, so Caroline has been, commenting. She said, nope, not clear.
Does that mean I'm not clear or you're not clear?
She's not clear. She knows she's not clear. Yeah. So Marianne, did you have a question? Because you're unmuted. I'm going to assume that's a no. Okay. All right. I saw something here. Maria says, I don't think this is possible, but okay. Please clear what is needed to create my soul calling as a fire woman. Do I have a frequency? Do I have the frequency now to create my healing gifts?
Only you actually know that, Maria. The truth is your connectivity and your connection and your guidance. And, sort of, is it your soul's desire to be a fire woman?
Yeah. So I don't know. I don't know if you mean a real fire woman with a hose and
all that that's
stuff.
what I was thinking. Yeah, it was like fire woman with a hose.
Or a fire woman as a metaphysical fire woman.
Yeah, I can't answer that.
I'm a fire woman. I'm a woman of fire for sure.
Yes, I know. Yeah, exactly. I've had a few of those.
Awesome. So CA says there's a great old semi-country song that says, I'm just an old chunk of coal, but I'm going to be a diamond someday.
Oh, yes, absolutely. Yeah, that's beautiful. We've all got that mantra. It's just absolutely wonderful. Yeah. And that's busy in the refinement process. And
we are all going through that refinement process. We are all, becoming more and more light with, with all the work that we do, with all the healing work, all the conscious letting go, right?
Absolutely. Yeah. And, talking about the diamond in nowhere diminishes everything that everybody has actually been doing. What it's just saying is that here you have an infrastructure and a support mechanism that will accelerate and catalyze and expand upon everything that you've actually been doing and bring it into a cohesive whole, because it's our journey to wholeness.
So in the programs, in the packages, you go through this process again of creating your diamond grid, right?
Everything that I do is within the diamond. Okay, so everything is, that's your fundamental diamond structure. So that you can start envisaging, on a daily basis. As you sit down, you rest, and you actually intend it, and you create it around you in that configuration. That's the starting point. Okay, and so that's your basic diamond. Within that, you actually have a fine grid of fibers that actually flow through. And it's those fibers within the grid that we start refining through the cellular work of the processes that we do in the program, as well as all of the understanding, because you have the diamond fractal pattern in your blood cells. You kind of go, oh, this is just amazing. Everything that's needed, even the oxygen that you breathe, here's a little in. Even the oxygen that you breathe, if oxygen could crystallize, it would crystallize as diamond. So you can even start imagining that when you breathe, you are breathing in diamond, because the lattice structure for oxygen as an element is octahedral. So if you could crystallize oxygen, it would crystallize as an octahedral diamond lattice structure. So you can almost imagine. So it becomes fascinating when you get all of these links,
Yeah. So now
blueprints there.
For me, it just makes sense. Like, okay, so this is why I, last year I started incorporating diamonds, energy into all my healing work as well. So it's like,
Yes, absolutely.
That's so funny. Oh, well, not funny, but it's like, okay.
But it's perfect, and it's perfect divine timing. It's accessing ever more refined and higher and finer frequencies. And it's, it's a wonderful testament to the amount of work that you've done, all the processes that you've been through, all of that pressure for everybody, that's here, that's drawn to the diamond. You've done a lot of work.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Exactly. Still doing it.
Yeah, still doing it. Yeah, absolutely.
So Linnell, I think, must have recently had a process done or something. And she said, that's what has happened every day. Diamond in my mind makes grounding so much faster.
Yes.
I think we just lost her. She was there. It's like, oh, there she is. And then she said, there's a butterfly outside my window. Awesome. That's a great sign or totem or symbol, right?
Yes, absolutely. Yes.
Transformation. Yeah, exactly. I love it. Butterflies.
I posted something on Facebook recently, which was just so beautiful. It actually said, you can't speak butterfly to caterpillar people.
True.
I thought, that's just so lovely. But it's also to remember that before the caterpillar becomes a butterfly, it goes through this soup where it's just a bunch of molecules that it has no idea, and it feels like death. So it's the fear. We are the imaginal cells that hold the blueprints for the emerging new human that is fully shining with that diamond light, emitting, receiving and transmitting that diamond light. So yes, that butterfly is hugely, hugely significant. Beautiful.
And so there are times when we feel like we're in the chrysalis,
Yes, that's it. And that's that transition at the moment where you kind of go, well, I don't know what I'm going to be. Yeah. I don't know who I am anymore because all of that's changed. And we might go through this a couple of times, and each time we emerge as a different form. And that's what we're going through at the moment. There's another refinement process happening right now.
Mm-hmm. And that, too, takes courage to be you.
Yes. Yes, it does.
Transformational process, this transformative, all the energies on the planet, everything that we're thinking and feeling and going through, and all the changes that we're having right now, that takes courage because,
Yeah, absolutely. And it's also the courage to say, well, I don't know.
Yeah.
Like somebody asked a question, I don't know.
Yeah. And it's okay to say, I don't know what's going on. I don't know what I'm going to be doing. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know where I'm going to be. Yeah.
I don't know. Yeah. And then, and at the same time, be patient and continue to connect within, continue to connect to your higher self, to your essence, your core, and continue to strengthen that connection.
Yeah.
And ask questions. Say, okay, I don't know what's going on, but can you tell me when it's time? When something is going to come up. Can you let me know, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's what my conversation is always. It's constant with my higher self. It's, okay, give me a hint.
Give me a sign. Give me
a hint. Yeah. Just a little one.
Yeah.
Or a big one.
Yeah. I'll take a big one, but yeah. And that's the thing. And then trusting in that process too, right? Trusting that the universe, your higher self, has your back, right? And is here to support you.
And that is key. And I think that's one of the beautiful gifts of the diamond. Is to actually get into that space of being, maybe a little bit more serious and reverent for a minute. But that is the beauty and the gift of it, is that when you anchor that, that you are then connected to a matrix of light that is the fabric of the universe and the fabric of creation. And Creator has your back. Your higher self has your back, always.
Mm-hmm. And, as I attested to today in my calls, like, you have to reach out, you have to connect, call on, ask,
absolutely.
And to even get the answers, or even to sometimes feel that connection, feel that support, feel that guidance, Yeah, I love it. So joy is love. I love your joy, Julie, Caroline says.
Oh, that's lovely. Thank you.
And 2 kinds of butterflies now, Linnell says. Awesome.
That's stunning.
Mm-hmm. I love it.
That means that anything is possible. Like, could be this, could be that, whatever it is that's going to manifest.
Be open to whatever.
Exciting.
Exactly. It is an exciting time. So let me see. Is there anything else that we wanted to share with the audience today, Julie? This has been fantastic. I know everyone's been loving this conversation and the process. Is there anything else you'd like to share?
I've had such fun. Yeah, I've loved it. Thank you, Alara. Do you know, I wrote something down earlier, and I just think it might be really lovely to share, because this to me is the essence of what the diamond brings us. And it's the words and the wisdom of Lao Tzu. Mm-hmm. I don't know if you're familiar with any of his work. I just love it, because to me it is everything. And here's what I actually wrote down earlier. It says, 30 spokes unite on a hub, and yet it's the hole at the center that makes a wheel usable. Clay is fashioned into a vessel, and its inner emptiness makes the vessel useful. Doors and windows are cut into a house, and empty spaces make a house livable. Tangible things mark gain, but emptiness is the essential.
Wow.
And that to me is, when we create that diamond essence, is we are emptying ourselves out. When we have the courage to be ourselves, we let go of all of that scaffolding. We let go of all of those identities, and we empty ourselves out in order to be filled up with something that is more bountiful, more beautiful, more abundant than we could possibly even imagine, and that is beyond words. But it's in that emptiness, and that's the surrender. Mm-hmm. And having the courage to surrender to being the truth of who we are.
That's beautiful. Yeah, absolutely. The emptiness. And you cannot fill a cup that's already full, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
And so, or a vessel that's already full. So it's time for us to empty out those false beliefs, those old patterns, those old ideas, those old identifications that we have.
All of them. Yes.
So that we can
and they're in surprising places. Yeah, keep asking. I would say keep asking the questions, because you'll find out where they are, and you kind of go, "My goodness, I didn't realize that I had an identification with that." Mm-hmm. Wow, how can I actually transmute that and let it go? And there's a beautiful alignment at the moment. So the timing of this call, Laura, is just so significant. Mm-hmm. Excuse me, because on the 19th of April, which is coming up very soon. Yep. The 19th is actually Good Friday, and it's a time of sacrifice. Mm-hmm. Sacrifice and resurrection. So that's exactly what we're talking about at the moment, this having the courage to be you. What are you prepared to sacrifice and give up in order to be resurrected as the beauty and the magnificence of your diamond self? So the symbolism in that, and in the timing of us finally being able to speak, I think it's just amazing. And thank you.
Oh, yeah, it was perfect timing. This whole conversation resonated with me completely, and with everybody else too. So thank you. It was I'm like I feel so good now. Especially after the process.
Fired up.
Yeah, definitely fired up, and just. The diamond, just the process of letting go of that scaffolding was brilliant, right? Bright like a diamond. Yeah, bright like a diamond.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah.
So thank you. And thank you everybody for your questions and your comments and your feedback so much. And like I said, if you'd like to take a look at Julie's packages, they're available at alara.at/show/Julie. And Julie, you're gonna have to come back to talk with us again.
Look, if it makes sense. Sometimes do you know what, Alara? This whole thing about emptiness, and that's what really struck me, is the further and the deeper that I actually go, it's almost like the fewer the words that they are to define, and the more difficulty I have writing a bio. Because I kind of go, well, those are they're all just identities. So take no notice of it.
That's why I didn't read the whole thing.
Well, there you go. Okay. Well, thank you so much. That was just absolutely wonderful.
Oh, thank you. And I'm going to be doing this diamond process, the diamond grid for myself every day too, just to experience it some more. And please do, guys, go back and watch this again or listen to this again and do that diamond process. It was good. And for those of you who couldn't do it right today because you couldn't close your eyes, do it with your eyes closed. All right, so thank you. Yeah. Thank you, everyone. And until next time, may you continue to be blessed with an abundance of joy, peace, love, happiness, prosperity, and radiant health, and so much diamond light. Sending you all much love and blessings always. Bye for now.
And so it is. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye for now.